And to start with, there are two very similar girls. They're both 16-year-old. They both at school, they have friends, they play, they're innocent and looking forward to the future. They are thrown together under very peculiar circumstances, and it's a very unlikely connection that they make across countries, from Iris being in France, in Paris, and Victoria being in a refugee camp of Goma. Their connection from that perspective is through school. They are both in a religious school, and it's the sisters, the Assumptionist sisters, who somehow manage to connect the children, and to probably the intention at the time was to create some sort of normality for the children in Goma, because when you read the reports of the refugee camp, that life would have been absolutely horrifying there. But they are very, very similar. At the same time, they're in opposition with one another because of their historical context and the history of their countries and how that has shaped them and the situation around them. Iris is in Paris. She's grew up in a wealthy family in a country that used to be one of the big colonial empires, whereas Victoria is living in Rwanda, which is still suffering 60 years on from the Belgian rule, which has a lot to answer for what happens next. So there are two sides of one story. Iris is very much there to tell her story, to tell of the French guilt, to tell of to bear witness of the responsibility that both journalists, and she's a journalist as an adult, both journalists but also people in the West have to bear for what happened in Rwanda. Victoria is telling her story. She can't be an archetype for every survivors or every person who suffered in 1994. She's only there to tell one story, and the story of one family. But at the same time, although she's inspired from one character, one of the survivors I spoke to suggested we give her a last name to make her more relatable as a character. And the last name that he suggested, and it was his suggestion, was Uwamahoro, which in Kinyarwanda means the peaceful one. So it is not the last name of the Victoria I knew, but it seemed to be appropriate and symbolic at the time.